There we go. All right. Well, hello and welcome to kgateway April 15th, 2025 community meeting. As always, everyone's welcome to attend, and everyone who attends is encouraged to put their name in the attendee list. So that would be fantastic if everyone could do that. Once again, in addition to this, the stock we're looking at here, you can also join any conversations in the kgateway Slack and the CNCF, or sorry, kgateway channel and inside of the CNCF Slack. So that's another great place to ask questions, or can always come here and talk about them. So it looks like we don't have too many things on the agenda for today. Really, just right now, one other question. But if people want to take a second and add anything else that they might be thinking about or questioning, that would be awesome too. Awesome. Well, selfishly, I will just kick off into my question in general. So I don't really know what the ongoing release process is / should look like. I figure it's something that at these meetings we can help define, figure out. So for those who don't know, 2.0 was released, which is awesome. We've already made some changes since then that are great. Some of them been backported, and we might want to do a 2.0.1 release. So there's also some questions around that. I don't know if people have opinions or sort of how we want to start doing this. Maybe the thing to start doing is maybe we start tracking with some issue. kgateway repo. Yeah, do people have opinions, questions, or thoughts around this question, or any other concerns that we can take either to Slack or to a follow-up of this meeting?
I don't know if there's like a one size fits all. It probably depends on like how many bugs we fixed and how like severe they are, and maybe how urgently people are looking for them. Although I don't know if we have too many, like production customers using 2.0 release yet. So we could do it at, I don't know, either on demand or I don't know, like make a predefined every couple of weeks or something. Yeah, I don't really know what would be the best. Probably depends.
If it's bugs, though, wouldn't it be a 2.0.1 release and not a 2.1 release?
Oh, you're talking about the next major release?
And considered a minor release, majors 2, minors
Yeah.
.1, and then .0's fixed.
Yeah, I think we sort of need to consider both our minor and patch, like maybe not even long term here, but just like in the near term, right? So if I'm someone who's come to listen to this recording because I'm in part of the kgateway channel, how can I really know with some confidence when those are coming out? Or, putting aside that, how do we even start in this group / in GitHub and Slack? How do we start deciding what is the process for us to start building those timelines?
We could do like sort of hot.
Ian, you're roboting really bad unless it's just on my end.
Yeah, roboting.
Hey, so while Ian's figuring out his roboting, to your question, Nathan, is so typically we would have a roadmap, right? That's the long-term general, hey, next release, here's the theme, here's some things that we include in the theme, and we kind of typically manage that, where if we say, okay, we definitely know this one thing is not going to, all right, pull it out of the roadmap. But so we've got the roadmap aspect of things is if we don't have that, then we should create an issue in the repo, and the roadmap should, someone should just take, assign themselves that that issue. And I would think since it's a roadmap, it should be only person that could be assigned is someone that's a maintainer. Secondly is, or even more importantly, is I would think just what's our documented releasing, right? Are we saying, hey, we're time-based releases and we release on such and such time, what is a cadence? So, if we don't have that established, again, I think we start off with an issue, and maybe that's something that we need to call for a vote, or maybe we don't. But I think at least being able to say, okay, do we have the release cadence and a roadmap? Do we want to define those? I would think we would, and if so, we should start off with issues, someone owning those issues and defining that, and then the first step would be, documenting those two aspects of the project.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I would argue for, and we can obviously take some of this to GitHub, because there are quite a few maintainers who weren't able to make it today, so it's not like we're making a decision right now by any means. But maybe what we do is we start with, like, to your point, just a release scope issue for now, and we just try and ask for maintainers and other people who want to contribute to help put in what feature they want to see sort of merge. So for example, I would even say for like 2.1, maybe it's the delegation rework that is a pretty interesting feature, might be one of the defining things, but we don't have to decide that right now, to your point, right? Figure out who can run with each of the EPs that will be in flight. All right.
So with the roadmap, starting off with an issue, we can solicit, or I don't know if it's necessarily an issue or someone assigns themselves that issue, and in the PR, kind of leave it open to say, hey, here's a roadmap. Give the opportunity for the community before we merge it to say, hey, if anyone else has any comments or questions about the roadmap, otherwise, and again, it could be something that's fluid because it's an open source project. There's a lot of projects that don't even have roadmaps, right? And they're just dealing with making sure that they're including, features that they're trying to put within a release. And so, as on this topic too, I just think about a good place to start too is milestones, right? So this goes back to the release cadence and being able to have milestones identified based on the release cadence that we agree to. Then as features come up, we can just go ahead and say, okay, we're not sure where this is gonna, how high of a priority this particular feature is. So we have we have a milestone, let's call it just like, backfill or something along those lines, right? Where features, essentially issues that aren't already scoped, then they just go in the backfill, and and then that's where we are able to go back after a release and say, okay, or at some point in time during the release cadence, that we were able to go through and say, let's groom the backlog. That's actually what I was thinking. It's just a milestone called backlog, and we go through the backlog and figure out which ones are our priorities, and then as that begins to shape up, then we could start to see, okay, this is what we're planning for the release, so we can make sure that the roadmap is updated properly.
Yeah, I like how it's there's some process, but doesn't feel like it's overly process heavy at the same time, which is, in my opinion, a good mix, for sure.
Ian, I know you were going to comment, but you were roboting. I'm not sure if you're in, have a better connection, if there's any thoughts you wanted to add.
All right. The connection is probably still bad, but I did leave some stuff in the chat.
Okay.
Sweet. So I proposed sort of the following near-term steps. People can say how they feel about them. Gideon, how would you feel about just creating like a sample of the like what you might like to see as a format for release issue for the 2.1. I'm not saying we're filling it in, but just like let's just scaffold something out, right? And then we'll put out a call to people in the K-Gateway channel or the CNCF, sort of asking like, hey, if you have like EPs that you want to work on, right? We can like get them to propose that they work on it, get it into that issue, and we'll talk within maintainer set to find someone to sort of own that release issue and sort of be the release manager almost, so to speak, where they're helping pull things in. And of course, with this meeting itself, we can continue to sort of define what's in, what's out. Does that sound good?
I'm trying to, I think I lost you a little bit there. So you're saying someone needs to create an issue for the 2.1 release?
Like for release, like to define release scope or milestone, if you think that's cleaner. I just want a place where we can sort of chat and people can say, you know, self-select for trying to get an EP over the space, as well as, to your point, having someone who will sort of help corral the discussions, probably in these meetings, to make sure we finally do the cut.
Yeah, look, I haven't looked at the milestones recently, but if a 2.1 milestone isn't established, I can do that, and I'll just randomly select the date. I think this kind of goes back to one of the things we need to document and decide on is you know, what is a release cadence? You know, maybe we just, I'll put a date out there. I mean, what I've done with other projects in the past is just essentially track the KubeCon schedule at a high level, right? So, like, you know, there's some things for us to consider, right? Because K-Gateway leverages Envoy proxy, right? Should we somehow have a cadence that follows the Envoy proxy release schedule so that we're developing against like Envoy proxy main, we release, we'll say X number of days or a range of days is roughly after Envoy proxy releases, so that we get, you know, we're cutting a release with the latest Envoy proxy. You know,
Yeah.
the same could be said with Gateway API, but you know, KubeCon tends to be a pretty good point of releases, but you know, I don't know if that you know, every 6 months roughly is an acceptable release cycle or not.
I think just in the state where we're currently at, I personally, you know, would love to see us do a few quicker releases just to get features out. I have some clusters my house where I'm running it, and it's not quite hitting all the things that I want. But I see that we're going to be getting them in pretty soon. I'm pretty hopeful. So, you know, being very selfish. While I think that I like that as a long-term like view, I think maybe just like in the near term, having even just like short release cycles might make sense for now, with the intention of winding them potentially.
So again, I'll throw out a date that won't be 6 months. You know, we'll do maybe every other month or something like that. At some point, we do need to align with KubeCon schedule, just in the sense, I think it is important that we do have a release like shortly before KubeCon, so that we can roll into KubeCon and have a lot to talk about, right? Again, the other aspect too is the Envoy proxy release schedule, which I don't know offhand. Maybe Nathan or others do. Do we use like the latest Envoy proxy image, or how do we deal with that on the main branch?
So the project before donation used to be on basically latest LTS was roughly what it was, and it was not developing against main. And then there'd be some, you know, shuffle like to make sure that we end up often being like one behind on our Envoy versions. What's sort of fun about K-Gateway right now is we're taking a much more aggressive approach. We're actually not quite on main, but we're not too far behind either. We're somewhere in between. and I'm working to get us back to sort of main right now.
All right, I'm just taking some notes here because I'll create some issues on these topics that I'm bringing up. All right.
Yeah, it's a good question about the features that are important to folks. I guess I don't really know where that is. If people don't come here, then or like push for them. Like you can always put a comment on this document, even if you're not coming, right? I know it can be hard for everyone to make this time. I guess there's an open question as to what was that even like. How do people do that? Yeah, I think there's a lot of good open questions, and maybe what we do is also just like link this out to the Slack channel and say that we're going to talk more about this next week as well, just so that everyone else can chime in. You know, this is definitely not quorum. This is not even a voting quorum here, so you know, don't want to be prescriptive, but it's really good to get these questions started. So yeah, good stuff. Is there anything else on this topic or on another topic that people would like to sort of dig into in this meeting today? Awesome. Well then, thank you everyone for coming, and we'll try and follow up on these pieces. Danian, once if you're going to make that milestone with some time on it, I'll also link this back into the K-Gateway channel later today, and I'm going to add a future topic here for next week, just to make sure that we get more people in next week and get more opinions. I'm not saying we're going to solve it next week, but hopefully we can get to the point where we have an idea of where the conversations are happening, and we can get some momentum here. So yeah, fantastic.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you. You too.